Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, it's fine. Good. Thank you so much. How are you, everybody? Good morning. Mine is still night going on. I mean, it's my 50th day today that I've been on the road and on my feet. So this is exciting. I'm so happy to come and talk to you guys. First of all, let's give it up to my dear friend who has been following and who has been very much part of whatever I do when it comes to question of caste, especially across the continent and across the Atlantic, Riya Shah, for really making this possible. Let's give it to Riya Shah first. She's at the back there. And thank you guys, whoever made the flyer. I mean, this is amazing. Very, very nice flyer. I don't know who made this. Who made the flyer, the Caste Matters flyer? Do you all have anybody here? Just raise your hands. One. You did it. What's your name? Neil. Neil. Let's give it up to Neil. Excellent. Beautiful, Neil. Thank you. I mean, you know, people even designed many things for me without even bothering to read the book. He at least tried to read and then make that amazing flyer. I think one of the best flyers to come out in recent times about my book. Thank you, Neil. That also means there's a lot on table today. We'll try to, the purpose of this is, of course, to talk about why caste matters, but also let's think. We'll solicit more question and answers because I think we'd like to confront the reality about caste monsters. So do you all know what caste is? On the raise of hand. Anybody doesn't know, please raise your hand and we'll try to talk about that issue. No embarrassments. You can just say, I don't know. I've never experienced caste. I just have no idea about caste. So you know what? Here is me. Tell me more. Or tell me about what aspects of caste do you know, like or hate about. Anybody? Any volunteers? All right, I think I will assume some of you know and some of you don't know. Some of you have experienced and some of you have not. But I hope if you, in our country, we are deprived of many things. And one of the important things is we are deprived of our fundamental human rights. And when I say human rights, that includes civil and political liberties, that includes the freedom, that includes the autonomy that we need to have to live our life the way we want. Because when we are born without codes and conducts. But in a caste society, you are born with your already ascribed status in the society. So when the seed is in the mother's womb, the privileges are already accorded to person belonging to the caste. And if the person belongs to the lower side of the caste, the privileges are snatched from the person's caste. This is a despicable system that warrants your worth even before your birth. And then it continues to ensure one's worth, he or she might fail or win, but the idea of having a social status continues. So you can be a poor Brahmin, you can be a beggar Brahmin, but still you'll have a status, that of belonging to a dominant caste. You can be a millionaire Dalit, and you can still are a lower caste. I'll describe an incident. You all know Ravish Kumar, the journalist. So he was talking to me, and he keeps repeating it. So there was a Dalit millionaire, right? And he had a lot of money. And I will also share one anecdote of my friend. And so this guy, Ravish was doing interviews, and he told me that he had this Dalit guy had a partner who was belonging to some dominant caste community. I don't know which community it was. And so both are doing the business, but towards the end of the month, whatever revenues, whatever profits they make, this dominant caste fellow would not touch the money he had touched. Basically, they are like, even the spoiled money is not. And this guy is a millionaire. Second anecdote, here in Mumbai, a friend of mine has a factory who's a Dalit. And he had employed, I think, about 400 people odd. And his cashiers who work, they refused to consume the same water that his boss was consuming. Why? Because he was a Dalit. What did his boss do? He did not fire him. He went home, he went to market, he bought a Milton flask, And then he just continues to bring his own water. He said, I just don't want to disturb people's sanity. This is what happens. You can be a millionaire, you can be a Harvard scholar, you can be anybody, but the caste stigma is so stringent that it refuses to leave. In day-to-day society, we are becoming more and more illiterate. The educational granting institutions are not informing you, not educating you about the social realities that you have to live with and you are living in. See, class is a democratic space. It's an opportunity for you to rub your shoulders with people belonging to different class, caste, religion, ethnicity, race, and so forth. Of course, sexuality too. But within the caste decorum, what happens is, because it's a creation of democratic space, institutions of modern learning, what they have done is they have reproduced a casteist framework to operate into. And by imposing heavy fines or the fees, or creating an unsafe space for people belonging to the marginalized sections, whichever it may be linguistic, it may be, whatever categories you belong to, in one of them could be caste, they have retained the structure of caste. So if you might, this is the story again at Harvard, at my office hours, there's a student who is at Harvard. She came to talk to me, and for an hour, she kept on talking to me. And then, in my office, when you enter, I have a big Ambedkar's photo, courtesy to Ria. She printed from her GSD office. And so when you enter my office, there's a big Ambedkar looking up, and then there is a Malcolm X, there is W.B. Du Bois, there is Angela Davis. These are my heroes and sheroes. And there are many, but due to space, there's few. So she enters, and she continues to engage with me. And then the first thing, she came to talk about something really regarding her academic, thing. And then for some reason, abruptly, she seems perplexed. She seems tensed. Her eyebrows kind of come together, and she's like, "Can I ask you a question?" And yes, sure. And she says, "What do you think about Gandhi?" And she came to talk about a discipline, about some political thing. And Gandhi had no relation to what we were talking about, but then she wanted my views on Gandhi, and I kind of gave her a little bit perspective what I think about the great Mahatma of this country. Of course, it were critical comments I had to give. Little appreciation, but more criticism. And so this Miss X then kind of tries to, we have a good back and forth. She pushes me, and then I try to also fight back. And then she talks about Dalits. And then, she says, Ambedkar, we don't think, he contributed much to the nation. He just contributed to the Dalits. And then I say, okay, good for you. And then we keep on talking, and then she talks about Dalits. She's like, Dalits, they don't work hard, These are lazy people, you see. She says, no offense, I just want to tell the truth, what is in my heart. I said, sure. And then she says, she continues to animate the conversation, dancing through the polls by saying, we had our very good maid, and we really took good care of her. She was from the Dalit community. But, she would not come on specific days when we asked her to come, because we had festivals and we wanted her to come. I said, what about her festival? Can't she celebrate her festival? You say, see, this is the problem, We are giving them opportunity, but they're unwilling to take it opportunity. And we are paying her bonus. But even on the days of our festivals, she refused to come. And this is the problem. And her son, whenever we ask him to do some job, he takes a time, a day or two. And that's why, this is the problem we have. And then, of course, we have conversation. And then I explain to her and all. And then after 1 hour, when the time is taking, she's like, you know what? I never had a Dalit friend in my life. So this is a person, a classic case in front of us, who never interacted with a person, a Dalit, as a fellow colleague. She always interacted to this person as their maid or drivers or lower working class people. So she could never ascertain the value. And then she said, I made all of this even without having known anybody, without having had a conversation with a person who belongs to a Dalit caste. And then she realized and she left. And ever since, when I was at a book signing, they always ask authors to book sign in bookstores. So I went to a bookstore in New Delhi, and I'm signing, and one ma'am, about 60 years old, from Punjabi, she comes, and she keeps on probing. She's like, okay, tell me what is Dalit. I explain to her. Okay, tell me what is caste. I attempt to explain. She says, what is casteism? She says, that's fine. But these Dalits, they just don't want to work. I said, yeah, maybe that's true. And then she says, I said, how can you tell? I said, yeah, my brother owns a big farm in Punjab. And these people, whenever we drive the car, they just stand up and they try to do something. But rest of the time, they are just sitting and relaxing. They are smoking and they are eating and they are not doing much work. This is the problem with this country. They are all, and she makes this cripple. They're like cripples. She kind of mocks the physically handicapped people by saying this Dalits are like cripples. They are like what they're begging for all of the state's resources and all. Auntie was in 60 plus, and then I asked Auntie how much farm your brother owns. I think she has 30, 40 acres something in Punjab. And then I asked, do you know how much farm the workers own? They said, no, they've been working for us for so long. They don't own anything. Okay. Second premise happens. Auntie continues the conversation and she wants me to now answer, why would there be an unfairness when the government is treating? She says, we all are Indians. Why should you give special treatment to one and special treatment to one? These people just don't deserve, because they are not hardworking, sure. They don't have education qualification, sure. And more importantly, they are freeloaders, sure. High five. And we gave high five to each other. And then I asked Auntie, do you know the land that they are working on, the people, don't you think they have a right to work, dignity, leisure, as well as right to own the property that they are working on? She said, what do you mean? Do you know there is a law that says if you have worked for more than, I think, a decade or 12 years, that land belongs to you? Have you given that land for those people? She said, no, this doesn't work like that in Punjab. We have a different system there. I said, are you a different country or what now? So I am trying to engage legal principles, constitutional values, and the Indianness, but her Indianness only comes to fore when it comes to redistribution of reservation or affirmative action like policies. All other, for her, they are not equal Indians enough. And she's like, these people are so... And then she gives a whole discourse, and I'm like, by now, I'm like, this is great. So we have two experiences. There's Auntie and this young lady who's at Harvard now, and who lived in Delhi her entire life. And not to pick on Delhiites, maybe it's across, but you should know, more than 35% of Delhiites in a survey that was published, Amit Thorat and his colleagues in EPW, admitted to practicing untouchability. They said, yeah, we just practice untouchability, no problem. Untouchability is a modern phenomena where you make a person despicable, unreachable, unseeable, and a person who doesn't deserve to be part of you, doesn't deserve to sit with you, deserve to engage with you on issues of common concern. These are the people which we have resorted. Humanity's last attempt is to make someone untouchable. And this society continues to operate on that untouchability basis. Why do you need a society which is manufacturing untouchables and making one supreme? There are many reasons, but first is to retain your privilege, exploited privilege. The people who are rich in any society have traditionally been exploiters. It is no accident that a person is poor and one is rich. There has to be some. Economism doesn't work like that. Financial capitalism predicts and premises its logic on exploitation of the surplus produced by other people. So when one is rich, we are wealthy for so many generations. No, you are not wealthy. You are exploiters. You have exploited the working class. You have exploited the poor people that are working on your farm, your factories, your fields. And that's how the accumulation of wealth kind of came about. So even before we address that question, it is to declare other person the most wretched person of this earth, what Frantz Fanon would identify describing the people of black origin. Of course, in the decolonial context, Frantz Fanon was talking about larger humanity that has been oppressed. So people sitting on the privileges, it's almost like a pope sitting on a pulpit and giving a declaration without even disclosing the kind of horrid atrocity that has been committed around. Today we have same Miller, sort of Sanskritic kind of pulpit, I call it, where they sit and try to declare what is good and what is not. And this has given a rise to a fundamental nationalism of some sort where you are immediately declared anti-national if you raise the issue of fundamental rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. Article 17 prohibits untouchability, and 35% of Delhiites, these people living in the capital, admit that they don't hesitate practicing untouchability. And if you go to UP and all, it's 50% plus. Now, what untouchability is, you should just ask many people, Imagine a place, you're coming and nobody is willing to sit next to you. Imagine coming to a college and everybody is staring and, giving all those nasty looks at you. Imagine coming every day to college, sitting and your teacher ignoring you. And more importantly, imagine walking about a kilometer or two just for fetching a glass of water. How does it feel? These are just the very surface level descriptions of untouchability. Untouchability also deprives you to accumulate property or welfare of your own kids and family. It doesn't allow you an opportunity to grow because you have to be bounded to someone. So various phenomena and various segments that we have in our country, we need to understand that everything erupts with caste. Even if you have the so-called Hindu Muslimization debate, it has caste sitting at its center. Among Muslims, there is a huge caste. The Pasmanda Muslims, the oppressed caste Muslims, continue to be oppressed. Why? Because the converts to Islam were from the lower caste predominantly. Of the Christians in India, 70 to 80% belong to the Dalit community. That's why when they're attacking Christians, they're not attacking Christians per se, they're attacking the Dalits who have converted to Christianity because they dared to live the barbaric humanity that Hinduism has accorded. Everything that we see today, liberal as well as radical frameworks and conservative frameworks, totally whitewash these significant phenomena of caste. Why? Because nobody wants to engage with this reality. They want to continue the oppressive system. And therefore, when we say India is so backward country, because caste is still operating in your mindset, in your material needs and resources. Day by day, as we continue to approach whatever century, one hope that we always have, and I say hope is the best medicine for people with hopelessness surrounding them. It is a catastrophe, what Cornel West calls a spiritual catastrophe. We have lost the morale of a society. And we are a society without morals. We just parade around it. If we are so moral, why do we have female infanticide? Why do we have so-called honor killings? Do you all know honor killings? What are those? Anybody? Anybody, just give me a description. Yes, please. Let the female get a chance. How about that? What is honor in a killing? It's a dishonorable killing. We have neutralized the casteist atrocities that we are committing upon our own kids. Honor killing is anti-caste killing. When do you have arranged marriages? What are arranged marriages? What? You say? Precisely. Both. Sub-caste. Among castes, there are sub-castes. वो गोत्रा वगैरह जो धंधा होता है ना, that's what it is. They're trying to find कितना pure है. I'll describe an incident. A Nepali journalist would describe to me his incident. He's a Brahmin from Nepal. And he said, hey, I have a very interesting story to share about my sub-caste kind of. So he's a Brahmin of a certain caste. And his mother they all had, arranged marriage, pure whatever. They were trying to find pure Brahmin of whatever sub-caste and Kuli and Gotra. And शादी के एक दिन पहले they are like, एक दिन पहले उसी दिन सुबह शादी थी, they don't show up. अरे दूल्हे वाले कहाँ गए? All are worried, and it's a humiliation, right? अगर वो नहीं आते तो so there's a whole ruckus, and shit hitting the fan, and everybody is like, what's happening? And then they go to find out what's up, and they say, no, yesterday Panditji told that our sub-caste are not same. We thought it was same. We did the investigation. You lied to us. How dare you tell you don't belong to our subcaste? You don't belong to our subcaste. You belong to a different subcaste of Brahmins, and they don't get married. So what happens? His mother's father, grandfather, rushes and tries to find, and one guy, his father right now, was just chilling in his home. He's like, hey, you are single and you belong to this caste. You want to marry? He's like, sure. Gets married, and my friend is born. Now you see, this is affecting even among the dominant caste too. See, idea of, especially when it comes to honor killing, it's mostly Dalit male bodies that are brutally hacked. Why is it so? Why is it so much of a fear? There are many discourses. Now we had Sati. You all know Sati, right? What was Sati? Now I'll get an answer from there. Anybody? Yes, you. with the hair. Yeah. Do you know why would they burn?
Because maybe a person from the oppressed caste would, or maybe some other person would impregnate her.
Good.
To avoid excess women.
Excess women. Can you imagine calling excess women such a derogatory, isn't it? That was the purpose, right? They don't access women. क्यों? ज़्यादा औरतें हो जाएंगी, उनके sexual desires बढ़ेंगे, and they don't want them. They want to control. See, patriarchy has operated, especially casteist patriarchy. We call them Brahminical patriarchy. Operates on suppressing women's sexual desires. It is premised on that. It's the oppression of women that it is trying to thrive upon. Both answers collaborate together to make a thesis what Ambedkar called in Caste in India. His one of the first presentation and writings in 1917, it was published in 1916. He gave a paper called Caste in India, their mechanism, origin and genesis at Columbia University. Alexander Golden Weiser was the class. We all do that thing when we go to America. We have to present a paper. It was published as a research paper, and in that he argues the sati, origin of sati was actually to control the excess of women. Excess women होगी तो क्या होगा? भ्रष्ट कर देंगे हमारे पुरुषों की मानसिकता, हमारे बच्चों की मानसिकता. This is what it is always being told. That's why controlling of women from childhood has been disciplined so that they don't cross over the caste boundaries. That's the most fear they have. Why do parents want to regulate your actions, your feelings, your emotions, your desires? Because they just don't want you to cross over. Because they know other human beings, you're also a human being, there could be a possibility of you liking each other and then, so quote-unquote mixture of blood. I don't know what that even means, purity and mixture of blood. Blood is blood. If you're O positive, I'm O positive. Take my blood if you need. But you see, this caste system is such a fictitious, imaginative bullshit identity. How does one even, what's there? What's pure about it? Ghee laga ke aaya kya iske andar? Vanaspati ghee yukt blood. We don't want to mix it. This is such a childish way of looking at it. And we educated people, we laugh at it, but we continue to practice it in our day-to-day life. Directly, indirectly. Firmly, inherently. Implicitly, explicitly. Even though we understand, now many people will tell, this is all good, but we have to follow our parents. Right? Right? Now your parents say, beta, ye kal zahar hai, pilo mast. Will you take it? One film, Anil Kapoor, he's a lawyer, and his mother is lying. But in order to prove, he drinks the poison in court. And of course, dies or something like that. Extreme emotional, the background music is going on like danger. One is unable to escape that. So if your parents are offering you a glass full of poison, will you consume it? No. Parents are offering us everyday caste poison to consume. We close our eyes, we gulp it, and next day we become more casteist. We need to resolve at some point how are these issues going to be handled and tackled. People first jump to tackle this issue. How do you tackle before you handle it, before you understand it, before you epistemologically root yourself, understand yourself? And people with privileges of caste need to identify they have more responsibilities because you have privileges. You can use your privilege to dismantle this oppressive system. And more importantly, it's a call to women folks because caste is oppressing you primarily. Any caste woman, more so the dominant caste woman. अपनी ही बेटियों को जलते हुए इसके अंदर ढकेल जाता हो बर्निंग फायर में. Because there was a child marriage. 8-9 साल की उसमें you had to marry and 11-12 whatever age and then you start producing kids whatever and this man was usually older. To maintain the purity, what they did was they created this excess women because log mar rahe the whatever reason and they were youngsters in their early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, whatever. They still have a whole life to live. Ye to mar gaya hai. What do we do? According to the Varna Dharma, a Brahmin cannot remarry. A widow cannot marry a widow. So that same applies to the lower, depending on which scale you belong. So if a Brahmin cannot marry, there are other people who can marry. They don't have caste codes restrictions upon them. They're like, sure, what's wrong? And then they would marry. And the idea of widow remarriage was already existing among the so-called lower caste communities because they were outcasts. They were not necessarily adhering to the principles. Same was happening in ST, the Adivasi communities. They have their own ecological, cosmological ways of life. And so in order to control that, they did two things. One, they made women look ugly. And how do you make women look ugly? Tonsure. And then, other thing what they did? Draping a white sari to show you are pure. And we also have a film on Bollywood, somebody made that film on, and they never talked about caste as explicitly. That's primarily caste that's operating. They created all these women and who just live their life praying God and whatnot. They can do something else too. They have their 30s, 40s, they have the whole life to live. Let them go party, what's wrong? But they want to control. That was the one. Second was sati. Why? Kyun mar rahi hai? Because she's so devoted to her husband that she wants to die with him, as if she's born with him. The kind of emotionalism that has created around this. And this extra excessive emotionalism has brought out or normalized the casteist norms that operate in our society. We have to understand, we are all oppressed by caste on a different levels. It affects us. Of course, not as equivalent of Dalits. Dalits are the most the receiving end, not to normalize their oppression and suffering. You have to pay attention to how much of this is affecting them if it's affecting you too. And you have to not have a charitable instinct to think about their suffering or their oppression. You have to think about how you fit into this. How do you develop your empathy for yourself first? In day-to-day life, be it government, be it legislature, be it media, and so forth fields, we call 4 pillars of democracy, whatever that means. It's overwhelmingly represented by minority caste people who are dominating the positions. So in bureaucracy, you all know bureaucracy, right? In the IAS, IPS, whatever that bureaucracies look like. So there was a recent survey, it was an answer given by the Minister of Personnel Affairs. What is the representation caste-wise? So scheduled caste, Dalits are 16% of our population approximately across India. Adivasis are close to 8 to 9%. They make almost about a quarter of India's population, 25%, 1/4. So the secretaries list were out, and there were 89 secretaries across in various departments. There were 2 Adivasis and 0 Dalits of the 89 secretaries that are operating on a higher level. There's no Dalit there. How would you expect that change to come? The rest of them were dominant caste. I think OBCs were 12, if I'm not mistaken, overwhelmingly. You all know IIM, right? IIM has 512 faculties, the last time we counted. Across, 512 faculties. How many of them are Dalits? There is 2 Dalits of 512. Adivasis, I think 1. OBCs, if I'm not mistaken, 22 or 23. And the rest, about 496, 7, whatever, belong to the dominant castes. How much do dominant caste constitute in India? Brahmins are close to 3 to 4%. The Baniyas and Kshatriyas you can count according to their. People know the census. People know how many Dalits and Adivasis we have, but we don't know how much of Brahmins are here, how many of Baniyas are here, how many Khatris are here. Why they don't want to know? Because you will realize, itni choti population, itne zyada logon, itne resources pe kabza hai inka. And that's not a democracy in practice. That's totalitarianism. That's autocracy that operates in you, because a minority cannot rule majority. What was apartheid? You know apartheid? What was it? Anybody? In South Africa it was. I'll give you a hint. Yes?
I'm not exactly sure, but it was the oppression of black people within South Africa by the colonists who stayed there.
Excellent. That's the right answer. Black population was majority. Whites were merely 10 to 12%. 12% of the population ruled the rest of non-white population. And that's why they had to dismantle it. Apartheid was existing. They're like, this is not possible. Nelson Mandela had to spend, I think, 27 years in prison to fight that war. Apartheid-like situation exists in India now. Just have to pay attention to it. Let's talk about media. You like media? I don't like either. Bunch of cacophonous dudes coming on and using women also this time. Come on, women. Trying to just be, cool and whatnot, trying to create a TR. Cheap marketing that they do through that. But anyway, the media is controlled by a few families, just few families, not even, business, few families, not even communities. This media, News Laundry, you all know News Laundry? And Oxfam India did a survey recently. You should Google it. Scroll has reproduced it, also they did it. Hindi news channels जो है, उसके जो एंकर है, 47 शायद उन्होंने सर्वे किया था, 47 के 47 सवर्ण जाति के हैं. There's no SC, there's no ST, there's no OBC. And you tell me, how are these issues going to be discussed or raised on the TV on your prime time? In English channels, if you all follow something English, 90%, 89 point something percentage belongs to the dominant caste. There's no SC there. So this is the reality that we are facing. And of course, in print media and all, we don't have representation. That's why there is misreport and under-reportage of the incidents that affect the people who are on the margins of this society. Modi's cabinet. Just look out at the caste statistics of Modi's cabinet. Cabinet minister is the top. It's the cabinet minister, right? Ravish Kumar did a segment on that and he identified kitne jati ke log hai. Brahmins were overwhelmingly represented there. Of, I don't know, since it was 6 positions of, now I think he has expanded the cabinet, but it was 6 out of 10 or some position, or cabinet, or 12 positions he had given to the Brahmins only. Judiciary. Judiciary will dare you to ask these questions. How dare you ask us? Why? You are a god or what? They have their internal, whatever the committee that promotes. Outlook magazine, they did a survey about 2 years ago, and they came out, they call it, the title was Cradle of Justice. Ironic title they gave, of course. Cradle of Justice. Nepotism operates in the appointment of judges on a higher court and Supreme Court. They identified that the people sitting on the Supreme Court bench were relatives. And relatives matlab kaun hota hai? Your caste kin folks. Or immediate children belong to the dominant caste. Like for example, the Mishra who was, his uncle was also former Chief Justice. And there were 2 judges who were the Supreme Court, they were children of former CMs. Is that a democracy that is in practice there, where you have nepotism operating on day-to-day basis? When we are applying for seats or jobs here, when nepotism operates, you get anguished. You're like, how dare it is possible, right? As Indian citizens, you should also be daring them. How dare you guys operate on a nepotism highest level where you are given responsibility of offering justice, interpreting the new legislations as well as the laws that are for the welfare of our country. Because we don't look at these issues consciously, we continue to suffer inherently. Because we don't know where to find answers. For finding answers, we go to Google. Try to find out what's new with this and how do I do that. And that's still dominated by the algorithmic biases that they have produced in it. Day by day, when we are trying to find answers to our problems, the answers fall short to convince you. Because we don't want to tackle the reality, we end up practicing passivism. A passivism encourages you to pass on and just be chilled. It's pacifying your anger. And this is your responsibility. You have to live this generation. Your parents gone now. They must be retiring in few years or whatnot. But you have to live this life, and it is upon you to take care of the issues that are affecting your society. Because in a society, what Aristotle calls a social kind of osmosis, a social beingness, if one person is suffering, it is bound to affect you. Because this is how the chain goes. We are interconnected with the modern economies that have even made possible for a worker, if he or she strikes, the owner gets, problems. They have to find alternatives. So let caste not be an external problem. Let it be your problem. Personalize it. Utilize this opportunity that you have. You must be architect, artist, whatever field you belong to. Use the credentials that you have honed from childhood and deploy it into the spaces that are there to dismantle casteism, dismantle patriarchy, dismantle homophobia, dismantle xenophobia, and dismantle all forms of oppression that operate amongst us. And let us also see how much of an oppressor we are. How much of a everyday oppression we commit on other people? Have we created safe spaces for Dalits to be who they are? Can a Dalit come in the audience and say Jai Bhim and you will not be offended? Can Adivasi K and say Hul Johar and whatever they feel and will you not be offended? We have not created that safe spaces for all, and that's why we practice what I call casteist campus casteism. In classrooms, outside classrooms, our faculties are also not made sensitive about that. And Ria must be knowing at Harvard we have sensitivities around these issues. We are given training. We are given workshops, for example, especially when we work there, I work there, so we are exposed to a workshop about sexism, how men can practice sexism, and so there are various things they teach us. And we're like, oh, maybe I was doing that, maybe I should stop. That's a lesson they give. We are not trained to be caste sensitive. That's why we end up practicing. And when you practice, what you do is you remove, you withdraw, you kill the humanity of the person who is sitting next to you, belonging to other caste. Why? Just caste. Caste is a fictitious identity that has been forcibly imposed upon you. And how dare you not challenge that? We are challenging many norms. And to be a anti-casteist, you have to begin with your own self and your family, your inner circle. I was talking to an editor of a very famous Marathi newspaper, sitting in Marine Drive chatting, and he's an atheist. He's a Brahmin, but he's like, I'm an atheist, and then he keeps raising the issues of caste. I said, well, what happens? He says, I'm socially boycotted by my own family. Experience what social boycott means that Dalits live every day in this country. When you do a social boycott upon a community, especially imagine living in a village, when you socially boycott, that means you refuse to grant access to anything, which is maybe milk, maybe groceries, maybe water, and other form of usable that you need in your life. You make the life of those people unworthy, unlivable. And that's why many Dalits who are socially boycotted, they leave en masse and they come to modern locations like Mumbai and big cities. And what do they do? What are they operating? What are they doing? They occupy or they develop new slums in our society. They become the beggars of our society. They become the lowest working class. They become the most vulnerable. Why? Because the village that Gandhi romanticized as a village republic did not accorded the same Indian status. Even, Naomi Klein calls it disaster capitalism. We have to talk about disaster casteism. What is disaster casteism? Now, there is a flood, right? Now, in Orissa, there was a flood recently, if your memory serves. And the government created a tin shed just for rescue operations. And a journalist went there, and he said there were a group of people who were standing in the rain. There was rain, they had nothing, they were just sitting inside a tree, and then there was a big shade where government was sending food and other items. And he went and asked them, why are you here? Why don't you go there? There's a space. They said, sir, we can't go. Why? Sir, hum neech jati ke. He said, but disaster hai. Sabka gaon, every village, the village was washed. The temples were floating. In this disaster, rather, your humanity, you had an opportunity to live up to your human values. What these people do? The people refuse them access when there is a flood outside and it's raining heavily. These vulnerable, poor families were put outside. They were not given food and they were not allowed to sit under the roof. Kyunki hum uch jati ke. In disasters also we find caste. When tsunami happened, in Tamil Nadu and coastal areas, the people most affected were the people who belonged to fishermen as well as other lower caste communities. Rehabilitation did not reach them. There's still case going on. Why? They belong to the quote-unquote lower castes. Same happened in Gujarat when there was a bhukamp. The earthquake brought about, and the migrant laborers who came, especially they came to Maharashtra to sell whatever they have. And there was a question we asked, and they said, we were not given the provisions. And they became the beggars or workers, whatever you call, how you define it, lowest paying job, whatever they were selling, hustling around on the streets. But in fact, they had their house and everything. This is what disaster casteism does to you. It numbs the consciousness. It doesn't allow you to think beyond the measures of comfort zone. It still wants to make you feel comfortable in the discomfort you have. Now, even if natural calamities, volcanoes are coming, we are still trying to find the differences of caste. How much of our humanity has been died, and who killed it? Perhaps our family killed it. Perhaps our community killed it. They did not allow you to think beyond that. There is a flood. A friend of mine sent me a message just now. She's a Brahmin. And she sent an item. She said, look what's happening here. There's a flood, I think in Solapur? Kolhapur. And then there was a builder, he has like a towers there, and he sent a message out that whoever is affected, please send, we welcome the Brahmins. It's right happening under here. I still have the message. She sent me yesterday. How do you think, and who do you think will end caste, if not the natural disasters? अगर छत गिरा है तो सब मरने वाले हैं ना. अब उसमें आप झूठे पड़े, 1 मिनट में तेरा कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट बता कौन सी जाति का है. We have made ourselves the beastly characters of our society. The monstrousness that operates within our soul has disconnected us from our own bodies and our own thinking. It has made us something else. Deep down in your heart, you still feel about other human beings. Many a times you are charitable about other feelings. You don't have to be charitable. You just have to accept the responsibility that it is your responsibility also to work out, to fish out the details and explore how do I contribute in eliminating this world's oldest surviving discrimination. It's an opportunity upon you. Your ancestors could not do it. It's upon you to end it once for all. Thank you. I'll sit, or they, okay.
Your own questions now.
Yeah, please identify yourself as you're asking the question.
Hi, my name is Mohit, and where were the admissions here? So, like, open category, they say it's unfair that our guys are higher than others, and how are some people getting reserved seats? Why are the reservations there? So, how do you answer that?
How many Dalits are there in this class? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me give your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Congratulations. Give it up for these guys who have made it here. These are the people, one generation ago, they were slaves on the farms. These are the people who were working, making bare minimum to live their life. These are the people who have made it up to here. We should always congratulate them every day that they have surpassed all those barriers that were imposed by the society as well as the structures, and they still managed to sit here and be confident about their own identity. Well done, guys. I'll respond to you. Anybody else having question on the same line, so we can actually collect and not then go dancing around the same question. Okay, 2, yeah. You go ahead.
So I feel this thing should not exist because we further discriminate between the higher caste and the lower caste. So by introducing this thing, I don't know.
Sure.
Further oppress the.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd like to counter the question about how do you define merit and what makes you think that one person deserves more to be part of this college and the other person didn't. Is it only on the sole basis of your NATA score and or your 12th standard score, or is it something else that you believe that you deserve your place more?
All right. So I think this is an interesting question. I appreciate your courage for asking these questions. See, first of all, we have to understand caste is not equal to reservation or merit. This is something else. This is something entirely else. Anthropologically, that doesn't even feature. Caste is, as I talked about, whatever privileges and disadvantages we have. We feel the brunt of it because we see it, experiencing it now. But we have never inquired about the people. What are their stories? What are their histories? What kind of people they are? Now, let's talk about Harvard, right? Ria got into Harvard. I was also there for 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. Do you think merit alone played a role in that? Everybody has the same GPA, whatever, jo GRE, वगैरह वगैरह. Where do you count your merit? Everybody is smart. 3 hours examination cannot decide your potential and your talent. And the educational system we are operating in, it's a Brahminical education system. It teaches you to mug up, rote learning. You almost like a cow, you chew all the papers. Try to remember, memorize. This is memorization. If you have a good memory, you perform well. If you don't have good memory, you don't perform well. That's all. That's the only difference we have. उस दिन अगर एग्जाम के दिन ही सर दुख रहा है तो you perform bad. Does that mean you are not talented enough? Does that mean you are not meritorious enough? We are just testing people on the notion of merits and demerits about the inequalities that they are actually facing. We are not giving adequate attention to that. Merit is merely an outcome of social privileges that we have. Nothing beyond that. And who decides the merit? It's an arbitrarily decided thing. If we decide merit as a composite, as a human whole, then we will also identify, okay, 3 hours exam, plus 2 hour physical exam, plus how much of well you can do in actual physical activities, and how much of you can try to do some creative methodologies. That all kind of faculties should decide your merit. Not one examination can decide your merit. How is it possible? That means you are giving up all I always tell this example of my friend, Rohan Rawat, if he's listening. Rohan was a very smart kid, but he was not smart in his studies. He failed almost 1 class and 2nd class also. Now Rohan Rawat had difficulties in the class because somebody's failed in school. How do you treat them? Oh, ye buddhu hai. And they were always treating him bad. But Rohan was a genius. He was a chess champion. Now chess mein, he was beating everybody else and he was winning trophies for the school and all. And he was just failing an exam. Now do you think Rohan is not talented, not smart enough? These people who were doing good in 3 hour examination could not perform good in chess. Chess requires a lot of meditation, if you all know chess. He was a champion in chess, but Rohan Rawat was just not good in study because that never connected to him. Now, how do you describe a merit? There are 5 measurements that we need to follow. First of all, your own family. तुम्हारे फैमिली में कितने लोग हैं जो अंग्रेजी बात कर सकते हैं? तुम्हारे ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स कितने जो अंग्रेजी में बात कर सकते हैं? Your community that you hang out with. Now I grew up in a slum. I went to English medium school. When I came back, they were all cuss words in Marathi. जो भी वहाँ पढ़ गया है वो सब निकल जाता था यहाँ पर आते. Because the social environment is not there. First was family. Family में तो कोई पढ़ा लिखा नहीं था. It was difficult because if I learned something, like I learned Pythagoras theorem and I was so excited. This was like, when you solve the puzzle of algebra, you're like, yes, I went back to school and I was like, Mom, this is, and she was just nodding her head. She didn't know. She didn't know how to contribute to that. She was just like, okay, this is, okay, you're doing good. Beta khana kha lo, abhi aur padhai karo. So there was no like a familial sort of, because they just couldn't connect with me. If I'm learning something about the ozone, I would tell, thank God we don't have fridge, we are not contributing to ozone. She would not understand what that is, but she would like, okay, good, that's great for you. She would not talk to me about Dostoevsky. She would not talk to me about Toni Morrison. She would not talk to me about the new Pythagoras theorems that people are debating about. She would not talk to me about Olympiad. She would not talk to me about the various multitudes of opportunity that are existing in the field that I'm trying to engage with her. She would just be concerned about her son has come from school, he needs to be fed and he needs to be taken care of. उससे ज़्यादा माँ की कोई मतलब, she could not contribute much enough. Same was with father. Then society, as I told, society, when I went outside, they couldn't connect with me. They were like, oh, he's trying to be too smart because हमको कुछ नहीं आता, इसको आता है, स्कूल में गया इसके लिए. So there was not like a, you have recreational hours. Once you finish your school, you meet up with friends, you talk about different issues. We hang out on iPhones and try to send what not. That was a distant reality that never existed. In a slum, in conditions like this, it was totally difficult. And then third is your teachers. The teachers are very important in shaping students' life. A teacher can be Dronacharya and make you an Eklavya of the society. He or she might just chop off your thumb and then you're done. or someone can be really inspirational. We have modern Dronacharyas trying to eklavya every other Dalit or Adivasi student. So I have seen many Dronacharyas in my life. They would really encourage. It was 2 Muslim teachers who actually hold my hand. The other caste teachers would never even encourage, and later I discovered that they had their own small learning groups that I was never invited to, I was never part to. 4th, economy. I mean, how much of a wealth you are, My my colleagues, my friends in the school would go we would play football, and so they would have their own kit. I would use my school shoes to play football because I just didn't have one. Many people went to the exhibitions and they went to tours to different cities to do the exploration. We have school trips, right? Many of them I couldn't go because they were just expensive. That's just one thing. Second thing is the additional training and learning. In addition to family and community, there is an extra tutoring that is offered. Whatever you operate and all. That was an absent. 5th, inspiration and idols. तोशनीवाल नाम के हमारे घर पे थे. उनके मामा के बच्चे अमेरिका में MBBS करके काम कर रहे थे. Toshniwal from childhood knew what America looks like, what kind of music he needs to follow. उसका relative उधर अमेरिका में था, would send him gifts. And the parents would, when they are eating food, this was the first time happened. I ate the food at the Marwadi's house, and that food when they're having, the family, the parents were teaching them, citrus में क्या होता है, कौन सा vitamin होता है. If they're eating chawal, how much kind of carbohydrates do they have? They were teaching like this. I was like, this is great. I mean, they are already knowing what carbohydrates are. For me, carbohydrate just was an imagination. Kuch to hoga. Nutrients must be something else. Because it never connected. We were just consuming food without even knowing the kind of values it is adding, kind of nutrients. So the symbols. We don't have many icons and symbols living in our society because many of them are prisoned, they are incarcerated, they have been wretched, and people have been deprived of the facilities they have. So what we have is we have depression in our society because there's not much attention given to these factors. A friend of mine who was, again, she's now at Columbia, and she's a Brahmin, she's a Tam Brahmin, we call her, Tamil Brahmin. And she said, Suraj, me coming to Columbia is not a new thing. Everybody in my family circle has studied in one of the good schools in America. She said, from childhood, we were just knowing this. So she already knew, I saw, Friends, the soapy, I saw it 2 years ago. Before that, I didn't know it existed. So that's when she told. She was like, we watched it in the childhood. Dude, you never watched it? She was surprised. I said, no, I never knew this existed. She's like, no, this was a famous thing. It's about 90s kids, we watched this, we cherish, And the reason she was annoyed was I was constantly referring to Ross and Rachel and all kind of, But she was like, this is bygone era, you are catching up this late. These are the 5 attributes that make you who you are. If you have all of this in place, everybody has all of this in place, then we can talk about fairness and merit. If you don't have all of these 5, and you want to judge a person based on merit, how would you judge me when I have no family background, when no community support, paise to the hi nahi, mentors nahi the, and economic conditions, teachers and all were not supportive. I am merely survivor of that horrid experiences that I went through. And like me, there are many students, many sitting here in this class, who have experienced on various levels. So if you want to get rid of reservation and all, first we have to make sure that these facilities are provided. Now, you must have gone to private school, good private elite school. That's why you can speak in the accents that many of people outside India cannot understand. But anyway, good for you. But also, the kind of reach you had, the vision you had that I want to do this. I did law out of accident. I didn't know what to do. पता ही नहीं था because बोलने वाला भी कोई नहीं था. The idols we had around us were engineers. One guy was doctor in the whole slum I lived, and that he left the slum because he said this is not conducive. So icons नहीं थे हमारे आसपास. I couldn't rely on anybody. So if this is a making of merit, you tell me how to judge it. And second, reservation is a constitutional provision. You know what I'm saying? And reservation is not only for scheduled caste and scheduled tribal OBC. Get that out of your head, folks. There is a regional reservation. If you belong to Bombay, there is a reservation of seats for Bombay people. There is also a state reservation. If you belong to that state, there is a reservation. There is a physically handicapped reservation that you have. There is a women reservation there. And there are also categories for EBC, economically backward communities. You can be to anybody. You can be any caste. You can be Muslim. You can be whatever caste. There are facilities already available. How much casteist can we be that the first time learners, second time learners, third time learners who are trying to be like us, we target them and ignore all the other reservations that come. Now we know 10% reservation was recently implemented. You know that? For who? Say again? It was economically and economically weaker sections. Savarna Jati ke log. 10% reservation is there for you guys. Now whoever has a problem, get the seat in 10%. It's a normal course of action. So if you want reservation to go, then let's start by giving up our own privileges. Are we ready? Are we ready to give up our privileges? Meaning, you must be having land, you must be having factory, you must be having big houses, you must be having all that accumulated wealth. Democratize it, redistribute it into society. Let everybody start from beginning, right from point zero. Is it possible? If you want fairness, let fairness be from start. जमीनें बेच दो भाई, तुम्हारे गरीबों को बांट दो. तुम्हारे जो किसान है, जो काम कर रहे हैं, the landless laborers, give them the land. It should be a competition of fairness. We believe in fairness, right? So let it be a dialogue of fairness. Second thing, as I already mentioned about education, right? We have a very unequal structural education that is very, very nasty in its form. Private education institutions across the country are like the mafias. Abhi, I will tell you a story of my friend doctor. His friend meaning he's older guy. His son wanted admission. He belonged to a dominant caste. He wanted his son to go to one specific college in somewhere in Pune. He paid 55 lakh rupees. And he said, I want my son to go. It is so much competition, but he ensured that his son will go. He ensured his son's reservation through the money he can have. And this is also a reparation we are trying to make through reservation policies. We cannot be hypocrite as well as fair at the same time. We have to be either of. But we try to manage to be hypocrite in our own nuances of looking at society. On various levels, the judgment is for you to be more open. Abhi 4-5 log tumhare class mein. How will you know about the multiple diversities that are in your societies? If people belong to your own caste, your own community are sitting next to you, what is the new thing you are going to learn? बचपन से वही पढ़ते आ रहे, कॉलेज में होगे तो वही पढ़ लोगे. What is the new that you have learned? उससे अच्छा कॉलेज में नहीं आना था, अग्रहाराज में जाके बैठना था. This is an opportunity for us to learn new things about the communities. And if you're a curious learner, if you're an honest student, you will be like, yes, I know this, I want to learn more. I want to know about Adivasis. I want to know more about Dalits. These are part of our population. How can I be a graduate without having a tinge of idea of who these people are? Classic example was this student who made it up to Harvard and still hadn't had addressed the issue of caste. So I think we need to be very affirmative in our understanding of how this is formed. Let this be a benchmark of when we try to, and if you feel it's unfair upon you, look at these 5 principles. How much of you fit on this that I recently gave? If you check all the boxes, then you think you already have a privilege. You don't have to feel that you are being disempowered from that. And the people who are already made it here, usse aur merit ki kya baat hai? I mean, you already made it here, right? Now, what is the point of asking about merit or not? If you have made it up to here, baat khatam. You have proved your credentials in spite of all the structural barriers you have. Next question.
When the name that come in my mind of who was against the oppression of caste were Mahatma Phule and Ambedkar, but the caste system is going on since so many years. So why hasn't there been a strong stand against this before that?
We'll club a few questions so we get more voices. Yeah, here she is. Let her ask.
I just wanted to say that after you spoke about all the caste atrocities and all the other things, first question that comes with reservations. Like how selfish can we be? Because that's the first thing that hits us. It's not about learning that you can ask something new and learn something new about this, but the reservations hit me first, so I'll ask about that.
I wanted to ask about one aspect.
No, you ask then.
One aspect that we spoke about was interface reservations and understanding, but I wanted to ask about what about mainstream educational discourse itself? I mean, I'm not talking about the institutional family, the patriarchy, which operates at structural administrative level and faculty level, but what about the discourse itself? If it's Brahminical, how are you going to be even exposed to what is going to happen? And I think that's happening quite, and my question is specifically because then people start stating that our field is architecture, or our field is arts, or our field is whatever, CA, whatever, and you are asking what you, and the caste question is a sociological question. So, sociology students have to study it. Otherwise, within mainstream discourse, there is no Ambedkar. Even BA philosophy, I saw in Mumbai University, they're teaching about the Vedas, but there is so you don't have Ambedkar even there. And there is this absence of Dalit, not only Dalit literature, but even constitutional literature, which should be there, is just absent because the education courses feel that this is not a necessary work. So how does it play out with higher educational systems since you studied abroad? How does it work in institutions that are so globally bigger? How are the courses then structured? Is there any?
Sure. Thank you.
On whom does the responsibility of resolution rest upon? The people who are from the dominant community, their education, their awareness, or is it the Dalit or like any other repressed community? Is it them coming together and then fighting for their rights?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for this question. See, so I'll go with the last one. See, if you're a person belonging to dominant caste, I already said, but again, it's upon your responsibility to find out how much of a privileges you have in this society and how much of a privileges you can use to dismantle the kind of oppression that is operating in a society, and that could be belonging within your family structure. So you can start raising this question, right? In my book there is a chapter called Brahmins Against Brahminism. I talk about those Brahmins who were in the movement with Phule and Ambedkar, who fought against their own family members and other community members, and they were these radical people. But no Brahmin child is taught about them. It's unfortunate that your ancestors are not taught to you, who were really in the pioneering works of such nature. There has been a struggle against caste before Phule, before Ambedkar. Phule and Ambedkar sit on the work done by the previous predecessors, like I sit on their shoulders, And in the history, why do we have so many religions in India? Do we ask any questions? इतने धर्म क्यों है इंडिया में? Satisfied नहीं थे एक धर्म से, because it was reproducing hierarchies, it was reproducing oppressions. And we have various cults that we have, whatever it cults, quote unquote, but various traditions of sorts who oppose the Brahminic dominance in the religion. Sikhism is one of them. Sits on the idea of opposing the differences brought up by the Varnas, where they talk about equality, ekunkar. There's one God, let's not worry about others. But Sikhism today gets Brahminized in its own discourse, They wanted one community of women and one community of female. That's it, Singh and Kaur, lion and lioness. But again, we see reproducing of a casteist kind of, by the names. Now, Sindhu, Hindu, laga dete hain. Many Sikh people have opposed to this. Similarly, there is a great tradition of anti-caste people. Gail Omvet has written about this, right from Sant Ravidas, or people call it Guru Ravidas, to Chokha Mela, and there has been various interventions done in the anti-caste struggle, but their stories are not prominently told. But Mahabharata and Ramayana stories, which are mythicized in its own form, are shown at a prime time. Mahabharata and Ramayana के अंदर भी जो दलित रिवोल्ट है उसको नहीं बताया जाता है. They always suppress any reference to Dalit rebellion, Dalit character of revolution. They made sure that these logos are not presented, and that was happening in Bollywood. बॉलीवुड में कितने मेन स्ट्रीम एक्टर दलित ऐसा बताते हैं? You all see American movies, do you? Do you see African American actors there? They are in the prominent roles. It's about their stories. What about the Dalits? Do you open a TV and get educated about Dalit lives? About their stories? About their struggle? About their triumph? About their celebration of life? Same happens with Adivasis, do we? We have neutralized caste. I was asking to one filmmaker, you might know him, Nagaraj Manjule, who made a movie. So I was asking, he was like, there has always been caste character present in the films. अब जो अमिताभ बच्चन विजय था 1970s का, जो स्लम में रहता था, सोचता था, वो बोलता था, he's Dalit, he's me. But they never presented him as such. They always confiscated his caste identity and presented it as a class struggle. गरीब और अमीर की लड़ाई. Totally whitewashing the purest form of art that was supposed to give Dalit an agency. They did not give agency. They always withdrew, and histories are doctored. ये picture जो बंसाली वगैरह extra company है, who try to make movies about, they made a movie on Rani Lakshmibai, right? Was it Rani Lakshmibai that Kangana Ranaut? उसी के ऊपर था ना वो? That was the wrong story. Do you know Jhalkari Bai? Jhalkari Bai was the original Rani Lakshmi. Lakshmi was, of course, a queen, and the British were attacking, and they were sure that it's almost going to be defeated. So she eloped with her daughter or son, I think her daughter, and she went and lived in the forest. There was her servant who was a warrior, who was Dalit. She said, "You go safe, I will fight them," and she dressed as Rani Lakshmibai and fought against them. That is the story known to all people who are living in the area around Jhansi. There are 7 to 8 versions of this who talk about the greatness of Jhalkari Bai. Hamara Brahminical culture totally whitewashes that history. The contribution of Jhalkari Bai. These are the kind of narratives that we have to use and bring forward. My favorite actor is Morgan Freeman. You can love a black man because you can see him perform there. How can you love a Dalit man or woman when you can't even see him performing his or her talent? Of course, a dominant caste will play the role of it's like white people, or what that woman was supposed to play a trans woman, and there was a backlash, Scarlett Johansson. Total appropriation of the characterizations that we see happening underwards. And that's what casteism perpetuates now. I talked about all of this, and people, every time it happens, frustrating. वो सब ठीक है, पर reservation का क्या? वो तो सब ठीक है, आप सब मानते हैं, but reservation का. That means you have not even understood what was the whole debate about, what was the whole conversation about. These people are immediately trying to relate to something that they will be able to feel unfair. And see, it's not about fairness and unfairness. You're sitting on an unfair society, unfair privilege. Don't tell that my ancestors work hard. बाकी क्या घर पे बैठ के मच्छर मार रहे थे क्या? Many people say, no, my parents work hard. So if working hard was, I read a very famous quote, when I was in Africa, they used to share this. If working hard was a measurement of wealth, then African women would have been the richest women in the world. Same applies to Dalit women. रोज 3-3 किलोमीटर पानी लेके आना पड़ता है. Have to wake up 4 o'clock and go and do the manual labor, take care of the kids and everything. And so caste operates the way you see in your metropolitan discourse comfort. India doesn't necessarily only live in urban areas. More than 75% of India is still in villages, and the village conditions are something that are totally disciplined by caste boundaries. In last 10 years, 2006 to 2016, NCRB, National Crime Record Bureau, which releases the data of crime, 422,799 atrocities were committed against Dalits. It's a brutal genocide happening in front of us. Do we at all know about it? Do we talk about it? We end up talking about reservation. 500,000 people underwent atrocious experiences in this country. Every day, 3 Dalit women are raped in an average in this country. Every day, 2 Dalits are dead. They kill them. It's an average. 5 houses are burned each week. You know what burning a house means? That means you're depriving the person of everything. Shelter is taken away, your family is open. 5 houses are, and they're arson. When will we confront this reality? So our experiences are not the only global experiences. Let's try to look at the most vulnerable and marginal. And don't think you're the victim when other people are trying to get into your same opportunity. Had this college or this been like, they were like, out of 100%, they were 90% Dalits who came only on reservation, then we could have talked about unfairness. 5-6 लोग हैं, उसके ऊपर भी problem है. How much of a problematic people can we be in our own egalitarian ethos? Next round of, let's take it last round. 1, 2, 3.
I don't have a question. Nor an authority on this subject. Having experienced casteism from close quarters, only I feel that casteism resurfaces with a different form of representation. It comes to idea that casteism is a kind of operation by a social command. This is my personal way of looking at it. And it's represented differently at different times. So, contemporary times, now I'm saying, when I see being a part of this institute for almost 25 years, I begin to believe that institutionalizes the process of social privileges.
Yes.
That's the problem. Which means this institute itself is reinforcing it. In very idea of selecting various things, including many things where schools are involved. In this audience, we have 30%, to my calculation, would be belonging to caste, because that's what the official record says. When I raise this point, in this institute, then why selection happens based on certain criteria? There is no answer to this. Now, this means we are institutionalizing this casteism by itself. And this is a social oppression by given so-called social command.
Yeah, she was here.
I wanted you to shift the narrative a little bit to the Dalit body itself. Can you shed light on what you think in terms of identity and label? Because a lot of people from the Dalit community have tried to go to other religions in search of identity where they can be a little more influential. But that doesn't really happen because the label of Dalit still stays. So how do you think they can adapt to the passive form of casteism that they face otherwise as well? Because all of these ideas of reservation and mass killing and all are very large problems. But when it comes to an urban settlement, there are passive forms as well.
Yeah.
So how do you think that shift of scale can be adapted by the Dalit body itself to maybe prosper in the future?
Good question. There was one and then we'll, okay. Oh, you go ahead, quick, yeah. And also there's one at the back.
Yeah, so actually,
You should identify yourself so I know your names.
My name is Dalit. So regarding the poisoning that you mentioned, like parents poisoning you and you not taking action about it and passively reproducing casteism within yourself. Like I also want to highlight the fact that not only happens with parents but also in schools, whether they're your peers or your faculty. I think last year in DISS there was a conference, Ambedkar Perry conference or some seminar where after the lecture the panelists said that in institutions that are controlled by Brahmanical patriarchy, there's always you cannot never have a classroom. You'll always have a caste room. And I just wanted to ask you, just not just this institution but any other institution which deals with a certain profession, like say design or music or architecture. The moment you bring out this question about caste or gender inequality, they will argue by telling you that these arguments are a pollutant to our profession. That you cannot raise a caste question because it is pollutant to the so this entire thing about the profession being pure until and the caste being a deterrent or a pollutant question to that. So maybe you if you can, not just to this institution but also in general, if you can give the students some action points of how you can start thinking about anti-caste action within these spaces where they are so dominated and it's almost deterrent to even ask these questions.
My name is Vinay. I just wanted to ask, in the course of CA, they don't have any reservation type for any other kind of reservation. I mean, the student have to get a minimum mark to qualify for the exams. So why don't we guys have that kind of system in this? I mean, the Council of Chartered Accountants, they have made a criteria that we don't have any kind of reservation or anything like that to qualify. They have a minimum mark that you have to score that mark and then you are going to qualify. So why don't we guys do the scheme over here?
Which
is possible for them, then why shouldn't we do that?
Which is what?
The Chartered Account, Council of Chartered Accountants, they don't have any kind of reservation. You have to score a particular mark to qualify the exam. So why don't we guys have that criteria?
That's right. You wanted to ask? Yeah, just here. Yes.
Why are like Dalits getting sympathy? Like कभी भी कोई भी जैविक होता है तो उसके सामने atrocity लग जाता है. पर कोई भी admission लेने के टाइम में like they are getting seats. So the thing मेरे को पूछना ये है कि मेरा एक दोस्त है, उसके पास Jaguar है, but the thing is he is paying fees सबसे minimum. Guys. So I am having that doubt.
What he has a Jaguar and?
He is having Jaguar और वो फीस सबसे कम भरता है, ऐसा क्यों?
अच्छा.
और ऐसे बहुत जन भी है कि जो फीस पूरा नहीं भर पाते तो उनसे पूरा फीस लिया जाता है.
That's true. और कोई है क्या? कोई BMW वाला पूछो. All right, I think. Okay, you go.
Whatever the discussion or reservation is, that when you go out in the world to practice as architect, okay, caste will matter. That it doesn't matter whether you have come in to this level through reservation, but as soon as you graduate, it will start playing out in your life. Because the only, all professions, all your words actually work through connections, right? Your social connections. Your social connections are born, you are born with them, and when you graduate, you will be graduating with them, which will make your place in the world. And this reservation is not, I don't know how much it will affect your capacity or your possibilities for work.
Anybody? Last comments?
I just want to say that this institution doesn't institutionalize caste by giving reservation. It institutionalizes caste by putting the Ganpati idol in front of the idol. It institutionalizes caste by not providing non-veg food in the canteen, propagating the same stigmas about non-vegetarian food, and it institutionalizes caste by making exhibitions like on the stories of Krishna and selling them outside the college.
All right. He let the hell loose now. There's all murmur going on. क्या बोल दिया इसने अभी? हमारे भगवान के खिलाफ बोल दिया, हमारे इसके खिलाफ बोल दिया, हमारे उसके खिलाफ बोल दिया. That's a good point he raised. I ask every time I ask these questions. We have cooking shows, right? On TV, Sanjeev Kapoor and all that company. हमारे जमाने संजीव अभी क्या पता नहीं कौन है. There are many YouTube channels, right? What kind of food they cook? What kind of food do you see they're cooking? All meaning what? Any favorite dish that they cook? Paneer kadai, dal. They also teach you how to make chole bhature, है ना? And if they are courageous enough, chicken बना लेंगे, है ना? And if they are courageous enough, they will make a chicken. They're like, but now you tell me which kind of food? Paneer, I've never had access to. बहुत महंगा food था. It was almost like a mockery of me and my poverty to say paneer खाओ. Sanjeev Kapoor would come on, और दाल खाओ. You know, I always hated my mother's food. No joke, because I was like, Mom, you don't make the food like they are cooking. Like Friday evening को वो program आता था उसमें. Actually, sorry, Wednesday evening को, a cook show. Do they show how to make a beef? Do they show how to cook a nice, delicious pork? That is also diet. 7th of population in this country consumes beef. I consume beef and I love it. I consume pork and I love it. I consume also chicken. I sometimes love it. Paneer, kadai and all, I still have reservations about it. मसाले किस तरह के बेचते हैं? मसाले की एडवर्टाइजमेंट देखते हो ना आप? कौन से मसाले कैसे होता है? चंकी चाट का मसाला है, सब्जी मसाला, राइट, MDH, असली मसाले सच सच. फिर उसमें बीफ मसाला भी बेचो यार, है ना, पोर्क का कटलरी की क्यूजीन भी बेचो. Why not? That's the kind of casteism we have practiced in day-to-day life. We have normalized the caste privileges of people in the society, and it's taken for granted. That's why the youngsters who have this many questions here, they are unable to fathom, they are unable to confront, because they are not exposed to this. They are not trained to think. And to answer one of these questions, how do we do that? I think every institution in this country should have a 1-week caste-sensitive workshop. So when you enter a college, you should devote few hours of each day to teach students what caste is, what patriarchy is, what homophobia is, what religious discrimination is. That way, you are at least not fully but partially informed about these issues. Sensitivity hoti nahi hai. That's why you become like one of those bulls wandering on the street with no direction to, just trying to consume whatever you can get on the street. No appropriate goals and logics. And casteism operates before coming here, casteism operates here, and casteism will operate after you go out. Unless you are trained to think in a different way. Right? The story is like this. This lady, as I told you, who was at Harvard in my office, she ended up talking 1 hour about this issue, and later she's like, I never had this friend. So that's the outcome. When we practice caste, and for example, you say, he has a Jaguar, and he pays fees less. Of course, he should pay fees more. I will tell him, ask him to call me. We'll make sure he gets this message. But why is one Jaguar getting into our eyes where the rest of the population is living in poverty? एक जैगवार बंदे के पास आके तो पूरा समाज जैगवार वाला हो गया. This is the kind of escape routes we have identified. I have a friend who also drives Jaguar. He's a filmmaker. His name is Paranjit. And he was telling me one day, I drive Jaguar and these people are like having problems with me driving Jaguar. He's a superstar. He's a big filmmaker. God damn it. And even his people, like the colleagues and all, were not happy that he's driving a Jaguar. That means Jaguar is a monopoly of only few castes or what? Miller, we cannot even be happy that a person who has grown from such wretched conditions has been now able to conquer many of those hurdles and now is trying to live off his life. We should actually congratulate and welcome that person, rather trying to find faults in his success, what we have. Why do we need to be so insecure about that person? The poverty index, just look at the caste-wise redistribution of poverty. Poverty has caste segment prominently dealing with it. It's attached to it. We will go about preaching these issues of egalitarianism, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. Many people tell, oh, IS के बच्चों को रिजर्वेशन क्यों मिलना चाहिए? अबे मिल रहा है क्या पहले पूछना? What is the scale of it? What is the scale of it? If you have opened up an opportunity for a person who is having, let's say, master in architecture, which is another an elite course, and the person who has gotten into master in architecture is a person who fairly must have had some access about architecture. And he or she must be from, I don't know, AIS का बच्चा है, whatever, bank manager का बच्चा. It's, but of course, जगह वहाँ पर vacant है, so someone has to fill it. Now people will say, फिर गरीब दलितों का क्या होगा? तुमको गरीब दलितों से कब से सद्भावना शुरू हो गई? People are always like, what about the poor Dalits? I said, very good. Since when did you started thinking about it? No, since they started taking the seats, that's when I started thinking about it. Such an oxymoronic statement, right? They want to worry about poor Dalits. Dalit तेरे बाजू में बैठा, उसको approach, embrace him or her, no? You don't know the various structural barriers that one has to go to. It's obvious, there was a job vacancy and, they required a PhD in XYZ topic. I was qualified for that. So like Suraj, you should apply. There was no other person there in this room to apply for that job and it had a vacancy. If had I not taken, for example, it would have gone vacant. And what that do? That creates more spaces for other people. When I give you the statistics of the overrepresentation of the caste groups, you have to understand the networks that we talked about are most fundamental for you and your growth after you graduate out of this institution. All your network will run. What is network in India? It's a caste network. Mera dost wo hai, mera falana ye hai. The chartered accountants and all, they have made it almost like a baniya business. Overwhelming majority and dominance of them. Various fields are like that. Do you all know Payal Tadvi? Our casteism killed an emerging doctor. How much of a brutal can we be? Right here in Mumbai. अब उसमें क्या मेरिट का था? She was already MBBS. She was trying to pursue her masters. And then they taunted her for her caste. So the people who go over different castes, a different religion, she was a scheduled tribe of Hill. She was a Muslim. She was a proud Muslim of that. The society could not tolerate her autonomy, her agency. Dalit body is the most feared because it's most autonomous as well as it is more energetic. It has the capacity to burn down the bridges. And the bridges of casteism keep on continuing. You will be like, why do you need to burn down the bridges? The bridges makes caste networks possible for you to be more prejudicial. But also it has the capacity to build new bridges premised on the human values. And human values are not related to some external factors. It is what belies in you. We may end up talking about multitudes. We may end up talking about various issues. The fact remains, the poor people in this country are still poor. Do you know, and do you ever bother to ask this question, how the hell did world's top billionaires, India ranks 3 in producing billionaires? कभी ये सवाल पूछा है? इतने बिलियनर होने के बावजूद भी मंदिरों के बाहर भिखारी है, रास्तों पे भिखारी है. Farmers are committing suicide. Did anyone have the audacity to think beyond their casteist framework? अडानी मालूम है? अडानी 1 साल में 109% प्रॉफिट की उसने. 1 साल में. Where does your charitable instinct go when it comes to Adani? Do you know? CSD, Council for Social Development, just came out with a report. Are you ready to brace these numbers? Top 1% of India's population, right? Top 1% of India's population controls 59.4% of India's wealth. And top 10% control 80% of India's wealth. Of that 10%, some of you must be here. But majority of middle class has to fight over that minimum 19% resources. How do you want the rest of the population, almost 90% of the population, to fight over that minuscule wealth? Do we ask these questions? Why don't we ask these questions? Because तुम्हारा जातिवाद तुमको सिखा नहीं रहा है नई बातें. They are not allowing you to think beyond that. Problem lies there. Problem lies with people who are emasculating the wealth under your nose. And you are still not willing to engage with that question, but trying to look at the most vulnerable person who has tried to make something out of his or her life, and we try to target that person, and we make sure that a person commits suicide and leaves this world worthless feeling. Do we have as a society moral responsibility upon ourselves? When billionaires are increasing day by day and poor people are killing themselves day by day. And in our society, when you are getting education, your education should bring you a wisdom to find what is positive, what is negative, what is reality, what is myth. If we are unable to distinguish between these two things and reproduce myths as realities, you are no better than a beast. You are no qualified to go further in your life because you just are having educational certificates that are making you more and more illiterate. We don't want a generation of illiterate people, and this education system has produced hordes of illiterate people with educational certificates. I think we need to revisit, and maybe this institution could be one of those experiences and examples who can establish. Maybe it's too much to expect from an institution like this, but hopefully you students, if you are in this institution and beyond, will contribute to thinking about yourself as a good human. Thank you guys. I have to leave now. I have to